Hello, good evening, welcome. As you can see, this is 108. 108 Richmond Hill, West London or Surrey, is where I used to live. Overlooking, as you'll see, this is Stuart Court. And I'm just spinning round to see this incredible sunset. I'm just going to walk down a little more. I'll explain or share more around 108 in a moment. This is Boxing Day. Oops. There's incredible trees here. People all out for their strolls. What a blessing this is. Yes, and while we're in this direction, this is the Petersham Hotel, which is incredibly beautiful. Wonderful. And then if we spin around a little more, this is, incidentally, this view is protected by an Act of Parliament. Look at this. We'll move over a little further to get a better perspective. Yeah. So this is Glover's Island, it's known as. And just beyond in the distance is Twickenham. And actually to our right here, just on top of the trees, you can't quite see it, but that's Richmond, Twickenham Stadium.
I just heard this got turned into a hotel over here.
Which has about 60 or 80,000 capacity. And really what I wanted to, while living here, look at that now, whoa. While living at 108 Richmond Hill, and 108 in Hindu and I think Buddhist traditions is the number of times prayers are repeated or chants are repeated, which is a beautiful way to occupy the mind and encourage stillness, silence into and as the one heart, the one love, the one truth. Look at this. So what comes to share is that while living at 108, I was invited to compose some poetry for the anniversary of 150th year anniversary actually of the birth of Rabindranath Tagore, who amazingly wrote both the Indian national anthem and it's either the Bangladeshi or the Pakistani national anthem, one of the two. Anyway, and while I was in that process, I was drawn to spend a week on silent retreat in the Lauterbrunnen Valley in Switzerland, and close to a town called Interlaken, where I'd previously spent a week in silence with Gangaji. Only on this occasion I had been asked whether I would like to co-present a presentation, seminar, however one chooses, sacred ceremony really, in Mount Shasta in Northern California. And I tuned in, and the inner guidance was not to participate in physical form, at least on that particular occasion. However, I was then subsequently drawn a couple of months later to go on this week-long silent retreat, and when I arrived, fascinatingly, I was the only one there. So that encourages silence. And I encourage you to view these beautiful sounds here in the background of people enjoying this spectacular viewpoint and energy here. Yeah, feel the joy. Exactly. So anyway, I turn up then at what is a place called the Villa Unspunnen, which is dedicated to a lady called Irina Tweedy, who at that moment I'd never heard of, and she had, in the 1920s or so, I think, either born or lived or around that period. She had studied with Sufi, basically Islamic mystic teachings, and this whole area was dedicated to her. And actually from the reception area one can actually see the three 14,000 foot mountains, Munk, Eiger and Jungfrau, which interestingly is roughly the same height, 14,000 feet, as Mount Shasta, where I had declined politely, blessedly, the invitation to be. And it was only when I was speaking to the lady who, you know, amusedly showed me around the place where I would be the only one to stay for a week, and she said, "You've timed your trip very well." So I said, "What is it?" And actually, in my world, PDT, perfect divine timing, reveals itself. All the no time or no space, actually. So anyway, she shared that they had just completed the equivalent of the Stations of the Cross, however, through these majestic mountains. You can imagine 3 mountains, 2 valleys, just breathtaking waterfalls, huge cemetery, so beautiful right in the middle of one of the valleys. Breathtaking. So anyway, she shared then that they had just completed, they'd taken some years, they had just completed this, I think, roughly 2-hour walk, silent meditation through this incredible valley, where you stop and reflect at varying points. For example, you reflect at one of them on compassion, another one on silence, at another station, shall we say, of the cross, gratefulness. It's just spectacular, and it had literally just in the process of opening. And she said, "Do you realize what tomorrow is?" And the following day was the anniversary of 9/11. And we talk about being in the right place at the right time. And the reason I mention that, amongst others, is that on 9/11 itself, I had sold a ship from a New York ship owner on Madison Avenue to a mainland Chinese group, and one of the daughters of one of the people in the office was in the Twin Towers. However, blessedly got out in time, and nevertheless, business being business, negotiations continued. The deal was done, and the contract for the sale of the ship is dated 9/11/2001. And then a year later, again, huge synchronicity, sacred synchronicity, really. I was invited by a lady called Chloe Goodchild, who is the creator, founder of an incredible modality, the Naked Voice. It's the nakedvoice.com. And I'd only sung with her once. She deals in sacred sound, and actually she has sung 3 times separately for the Dalai Lama, and it does amazing work. I remember she'd worked dealing with the drug issues in Ireland, and using sound to restore the connection with the soul, really, beneath and beyond the level and limitations of the mind. So anyway, I had met her for the first time on my birthday, 25th of May, for those that would like to make a note. And we did incredible, she led an incredible sacred sharing, sacred ceremony, I would call it, at a church in North London. It was just breathtaking. So I'd only met her once, and then when I was given guidance to give up the shipping business and to go and how would I phrase it, to follow my life path of healing through writing, singing, poetry, really. 30 seconds after leaving the house, Chloe's office rang and said, "Would you be one of 3 men and 3 women to join Chloe in something dedicated to transforming September 11 transforming grief, anger, fear, hatred into creative action, creative expression. Breathtaking, and if anything, that's really what my life is all about, for all sorts of reasons, perhaps we'll go into another time. Anyway, in that moment I was just breathtaking. It was breathtakingly beautiful, and so I asked, well, okay, I'll do it. Where is it? At the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden. Spectacular. And so many examples of people who in the most horrendous of circumstances. One lady, her father was murdered in the Brighton IRA bombing, for example, a lady called Jo Berry, and she was brought on the stage, introduced, and then they said, on my left is Patrick McGee, and he planted the bomb. What? I mean, you could have heard a pin drop on all three occasions. So, and really the bottom line is that, that Jo realised she couldn't live her life was having huge difficulty dealing with the grief, the anger, the fear, the hatred, whatever. So she went to visit Patrick McGee in the H Block Maze prison in Belfast. And cutting a long story short, and perhaps more detail for another time, perhaps better explained by Jo, they were able, oh, that's a little dog here, just joining in the song. Oh, sure. This is a naked voice for you with four-legged pigeons.
On either side.
So, hang on, excuse me. Yes, after that naked voice interlude. Yes, let's just enjoy the silence. Yes, cutting a long story short, they both realised that violence is a vicious cycle, and that somewhere along the line one has to find the compassion, the empathy, the understanding to rise above. Actually, there's a poem on this: rising above our ego state and dropping all of hate. That's it. So bottom line is they are now, and have been for many years, working together for a peaceful resolution to conflict. It's something called the Forgiveness Project.
I'll tell you what.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, wait. I've got the photo of him.
Now, there may be more to this for another time, and yet somehow that is such a powerful experience. The invitation is to soak in the beauty of this sunset and allow whatever insights that may perhaps draw for you to reveal themselves. Yahweh, thank you for being.